Welcome to A Marvelous Life. I'm Nashology, and today we are looking at one of my favorite villains to grace the Marvel Universe. I'm talking about the one and only crazed psychopath, Carnage. Making his big debut back in 1992, Carnage is essentially the son of Venom. However, he's darker, meaner, and psychopathic in nature, which is probably why his longest-lasting host is none other than Cletus Cassidy. A deranged serial killer in his own right, Cletus Cassidy's sadistic personality makes him a perfect match for Carnage's extremely violent tendencies. Now, what exactly is Carnage anyways? Well, for those of you who don't know, Carnage, along with Venom, are members of an extraterrestrial race of organisms known as the Clintar. These beings form a symbiotic relationship with a host, which allows the Clintar to feed off their adrenaline while simultaneously giving the host superhuman abilities. In my opinion, the Clintar are the most awesome and interesting species in the entire Marvel Universe. And quite frankly, I could go on and on about them. If you're interested in a little bit of a deeper dive, stay tuned. I'm going to do more videos on the Clintar in the near future. So with that said, let's get back on track. We said we're talking about Carnage today, so specifically, what is this story about? For starters, this is Carnage's first standalone story, meaning it's a great place for new readers to start. This story was released back in 2010, 5 years after Carnage was killed in the first few issues of the new Avengers series back in 2005. Here's a quick recap. During a breakout on the Raft, a high-tech security prison, over 40 supervillains escaped. Carnage wanted to be one of those villains, but unfortunately for him, he was completely bitch-slapped by one of the most powerful beings in the universe, the Sentry. This fight, if you could call it a fight, ended with Carnage being ripped in two and left to die in space. This event completely sidelined both Carnage and Cletus for half a decade. That is, until now. To the entire Marvel Universe, Carnage is dead. But what happens when a shady corporation goes out to space to retrieve the body? Buckle your seatbelts for one hell of a ride, because this is the story of Carnage. Standing proud and with a smile that could light up the sky, Michael Hall is ready to shock the scientific world, because he has a secret. He has a way to change modern technology forever. And it fits in the palm of his hand. A chip with carbon-based circuits that transmit thoughts, not ones and zeros. This chip will change the future of prosthetic limbs, and it has the potential to do so much more. With this technology, all you have to do is think. Your thoughts alone will control the prosthetic. In essence, it will read your mind and act accordingly. The future of carbon-based technology is here. The implications will shock the world, and Tony Stark won't be on the top for much longer. Leaving the convention center, Tony Stark makes an important call. Michael Hall is a nobody. How would he get technology this advanced? But that call will have to wait. The day is about to get busy. With loud screeching echoing down the street, a small car aggressively runs down an armored vehicle. Whatever their issue is, the small car is showing no signs of slowing down. Every car on the road is in danger. Inside the armored vehicle, two security guards helplessly call for assistance. They need to stop this maniac, whoever it is. As the two cars race down the road at high speed, it's only a matter of time before someone is killed. The madness needs to end. But the madman in the car isn't the only problem. Is there something on the roof? Wait a second, what is that? Taking to the skies, Iron Man races to the accident. Scanning the surroundings, not only did the crazed driver crash into the armored vehicle, but there seems to be something on the roof. And it doesn't look friendly. With his repulsors charged, Iron Man nervously approaches the aggressor. It's odd. For some reason, he looks exactly like Spider-Man. A grotesque, monstrous version of Spider-Man. Well, Iron Man, this monstrosity isn't Spider-Man. Its name is Doppelganger. He is an evil, mindless duplicate of Spider-Man who was created during the event known as Infinity War. Yep, the same one that inspired the movie. A year after his creation, Doppelganger joined Carnage and his then-girlfriend Shriek in an attempt to burn New York to the ground. This infamous event was known as the Maximum Carnage killing spree. Long story short, Doppelganger is batshit crazy.
But luckily for Iron Man, he is no longer alone, as Spider-Man himself has shown up to the party. Spider-Man explains that during the Maximum Carnage killing spree, the madness spread through the city, causing New York citizens to begin slaughtering each other. And with the sound of an angry mob approaching behind him, deja vu begins to set in, as both Iron Man and Spider-Man are quickly attacked by the mob. Something or someone is driving everyone insane. But as Spider-Man does his best to fight off the attackers, a sudden helping hand makes itself known, as red webbing attaches to the angry mob, viciously pulling them away from the heroes. Flying in from above, two heavily armored soldiers contain the crowd, pulling the once peaceful civilians into a net of webbing. Iron Man notes that although they have similar armor, this is not Stark tech. It's completely new technology. How did they get new technology? And now, the two armored soldiers confront the heroes, commanding them to leave the scene of the accident. This no longer concerns the Avengers. Crawling out of the destroyed car, the crazed driver from earlier is revealed to be a young woman, her recent psychosis fading away. Under her breath, she excessively mutters, "Stop the truck." But the truck is stopped, but not because of her, but due to the monstrosity known as Doppelganger, and now it's proceeding to tear off the doors of the armored vehicle. With all of its alien strength, Doppelganger continues to pull. Whatever is inside the truck, it is utterly desperate to release. The young woman can only look on in horror as the contents of the truck are about to escape from custody, something she desperately wanted to prevent. But before Doppelganger can rip open the door, the blue armored guard begins to charge up his cannon. Whoever these soldiers are, they're here to protect the cargo, no matter what. With the young woman cradled in his arms, Iron Man screams at the unknown soldiers. She's in shock, but still alive. The armored truck quickly hurries off, its cargo still intact. But Doppelganger is in much worse shape, his body completely severed in half. In an alien-esque growl, he begins to cry out for his mother. As the armored vehicle drives off, the calls for its mother slowly die out, until the sounds completely stop altogether. Still cradling the young woman, Iron Man simply asks, what the hell was in that truck? Arriving at its destination, the armored truck comes to an abrupt stop. Its cargo is extremely important. It's a woman, slender, with jet black hair, and with a power so incredible she could incite a citywide riot. But she was brought here for another purpose. She was brought here because something needs to feed, and Carnage is very, very hungry.
This little woman is called Shriek, and she used to be Carnage's lover. Remember when I talked about the Maximum Carnage killing spree? Well, Shriek was a part of it, along with Doppelganger. In fact, during those events, the supervillain created a fake family dynamic whereby Shriek was the mother to Doppelganger, which probably explains why Doppelganger was trying desperately to release her from the armored vehicle. Anyways, Shriek has the power to induce intense emotions in any living being, causing them to riot in uncontrollable anger. I guess that explains why the angry mob was attacking Spider-Man. She also has a destructively powerful scream, which I guess explains her name. For now, Shriek is a patient at the Ravencroft Institute for the Criminally Insane, and it seems her psychotic ways are behind her, right?
Looking up in disbelief, the lead satellite technician asks again, "You want to change the trajectory of the satellite?" Looking down at his notes, the technician clarifies his reluctance. This new trajectory will lead the satellite straight into the path of space debris. A collision is a 100% guarantee. But Michael Hall is not moved by this revelation. Besides, he needs the satellite to crash. It's all part of the plan. This is the only effective way to knock the debris back down to Earth. He needs it desperately. The debris will change his company's future. Resting in her hospital bed, the young woman rubs her shoulder, the phantom pain of her missing arm clouding her thoughts. But Spider-Man needs information. He needs to know what was inside the armored truck. The young woman identifies herself as Dr. NEMESIS, a psychiatrist assigned to Shriek. She did everything she could to stop the transport of Shriek, but it was no good. Spider-Man offers his apologies for the loss of her arm, even proposing a prosthetic designed by Tony Stark. But the doctor tells him they're too late, because her new employer, Michael Hall, already gave her one. Within the last few weeks, Michael Hall secretly purchased Ravencroft, for reasons unknown. What Michael Hall could want with a mental institution is anybody's guess. And now, Hall Industries forcibly installed the prosthetic, a fake arm with brand new technology that nobody understands. Spider-Man silently looks on as Dr. NEMESIS continues her story. Michael Hall purchased Ravencroft and moved Shriek to an unknown location. He needs her for something big. The Avengers need to figure out why. Dr. NEMESIS says that she's the only person who can help Shriek. She's the only chance she has at a normal life. So, she needs to continue working for Michael Hall. Knowing that Dr. NEMESIS is going to find Shriek, Spider-Man takes off. He has a feeling that he might need to find Shriek first. Back in the laboratory, Tony begins cracking the case of Michael Hall. As with all mysteries, the puzzle pieces are beginning to put themselves together. Hall, Shriek, the new armored soldiers, and the prosthetic technology. It's all connected. In order to stop the angry mob, the armored soldiers used a special material for the netting, a material that hasn't been seen in half a decade. Fully realizing the gravity of the situation, Tony Stark calls Spider-Man. They need to find Michael Hall now. Hurrying off, the two Avengers race to find Michael Hall. They need to stop him before it's too late. Arriving at Hall's headquarters, Iron Man feels something's up, but they need to keep moving. If they don't, lives will be at stake. But if the Avengers learned one thing from the armored truck situation, it's that Michael Hall will not let his plans be ruined. As more armored soldiers make their presence known, Hall Industries is protected, and these Stark Tech ripoffs will do anything to protect it. The leader of the armored soldiers tells the Avengers to stand down. Their armor is stronger, more resilient, and impervious to damage. And before Iron Man's eyes, their unique armor begins to shift and transform. Spider-Man begins to tremble. He knows exactly what this is. Their armor is fluid, responding to their mental commands. Only one type of costume has ever reacted like this. And it's brought nothing but trouble.
We got a situation! Back to base now!
But the Avengers have avoided themselves a battle as Command desperately calls back the troops. Whatever evil is happening within the facility is trying desperately to get out. With her arm outstretched against the observation glass, Dr. Neves asks to see her patient. But that isn't possible. Shriek is busy doing what she was transported over to do. She is doing what nobody else can. She is feeding the symbiote, which in turn is creating biomass that is used to create anything, from prosthetics to armor. She is single-handedly saving Hall Industries.
Okay, this might be a little bit confusing, so let me break it down for you. Remember how the Sentry killed Carnage and left him in space? Well, Michael Hall figured that out and found a way to retrieve the body using the satellite. Turns out, Carnage isn't dead. Not quite. Now, the Carnage symbiote can create biomass if you feed it. This biomass can be used to create anything, such as the new prosthetic limbs Hall has been bragging about. So how do we feed Carnage? Well, Carnage can feed off negative emotions, such as fear and anger. But wait a sec, doesn't Shriek have the ability to drum up negative emotions, thereby acting as a living fuel source for Carnage? Is this why Hall bought Ravencroft? To get his hands on Shriek? Are the puzzle pieces finally fitting together? Let's continue.
Not wanting Dr. Neves to disturb Shriek, the head researcher asks her to remove her prosthetic hand from the glass. But it won't budge. The prosthetic hand is completely stuck, as if possessing a mind of its own. There's nothing she can do but sit back and witness the carnage. Awakening in a gore-drenched room, Dr. Neves looks on in horror at what she did, the blood dripping fresh from the walls. Her prosthetic arm has taken control. It wants one thing and one thing only. Its devilish claws begin pointing towards Shriek. It wants to release her. But as the doctor approaches her glass chamber, she realizes a startling truth. Shriek isn't the one it wants. Finally free, the Carnage symbiote locks onto Dr. Neves, unapologetically bonding itself to her form. Lying still, she can feel her thoughts twisting into oblivion. For Carnage walks once again. A cold and discomforting current circulates through the laboratory as Doppelganger lays completely still. Hall Industries has found use for the Carnage symbiote. With any luck, they will find a use for this ugly monstrosity. But the time for experimentation is over, as the recent security breach makes itself public. Security all over the building begin evacuating, with Shriek a top priority. Without her abilities, feeding the Carnage symbiote will be difficult. But Shriek is not the cold-blooded killer she used to be. After years of therapy, she just wants to be normal again. But the security doesn't care what she wants. She's property of Hall Industries now. Nothing more. Unfortunately for the security team, Shriek isn't going quietly, because someone here is looking for her, and it's going to take a lot more than death to stop him.
Shriek!
Falling to the floor, Doppelganger has no choice but to take the oncoming punishment. Anything to protect his adopted mother. Hit after hit, the alien lifeform is unable to defend itself, and Shriek has no choice but to watch their child face devastating destruction. Blood begins painting the walls as Doppelganger is beaten into oblivion. He cannot save his mother, but he will die trying. His life for hers. With their brutally butchered bodies strewn across the room, Shriek feels an immense pleasure wash over her. Cradling her child, Shriek showcases a sinister smile. A lifetime has passed since she gave into those urges, and boy, it feels good. The chaos within Hall Industries cannot be contained, as one of the armored soldiers is effortlessly tossed like a rag doll. And emerging triumphant is the symbiote of Spider-Man's nightmares, the one they long thought dead, Carnage. Spider-Man can feel the dread develop. Turning to the soldier, he screams at their negligence. Cletus Cassidy is one of the most vile creatures to ever have walked the earth, and you let him free? But Cassidy is dead. It's not him under the symbiote, it's Dr. NEMESIS, the psychiatrist of Shriek. But now, the good doctor is no more. With lightning-fast speed, Carnage leaps towards Iron Man and uses his cat-like reflexes to vault off of his body, landing in front of Spider-Man and emitting a hiss-like verbalization. But to everyone's surprise, she's not attacking. Instead, she releases the tendrils from her body and lets out one final roar, before sprouting makeshift wings and taking to the skies. The group look on helplessly as the world's most violent symbiote disappears into the night sky. Wherever it's going, it's doing so with unwavering purpose. Locked away in a secured safe room, Michael Hall fretfully waits out the disaster. Carnage is loose, and it's all his greedy fault. But he doesn't have to get through this alone. As Iron Man breaches the safe room walls, equipped with a dire warning for the shady CEO. Although his scumbag insatiability is responsible for the deaths of countless innocents, Iron Man vows to protect him, begrudgingly at that. But he's not the one that needs protecting. He's not the one Carnage is after. Feeling the ever-dreadful finality of fate, Spider-Man's nightmare deepens. If they want to find Carnage, they're in the completely wrong spot. Barely conscious and almost dead, Cletus Cassidy can see nothing but the bright lights of a sterile surgical room. Is he dead? He can hear the doctors speak. Miraculously, he isn't dead. He was saved by the Carnage symbiote. Turns out, the alien gave him oxygen, closed off his body to the coldness of space. In return, it fed on whatever neurotransmitter Cletus's brain could produce. They kept each other alive, perfect symbiosis, but now they need to gather their strength. They need to free themselves from this new hell. With their bonding reinitialized, Cletus, Cassidy, and the symbiote have come to Hall Industries. They have come to inflict carnage. And he's going to start with the armored soldiers in charge of Hall Industries security. Back at the office, Michael Hall tells the Avengers to not worry. The security team can't be stopped. They used pieces of Carnage to create the advanced armor. With his stomach dropping to the floor, Spider-Man realizes the massive mistake Hall just made. If the security team's armor was made from Carnage, then that can only mean one thing. With a grotesque proficiency, Carnage begins assimilating all the pieces of his symbiote, dragging all of the armored soldiers against their will. There's nothing they can do. Their organs are brutally crushed into pulp, the bones smashed to dust, screams born straight from a nightmare. But although the cries have stopped, the nightmare continues. To create their products, Hall Industries had torn Carnage apart, extracting pieces of him to create new technology. But now, he has made himself whole. Regaining consciousness, Dr. Neves realizes she's in her own skin. Carnage has left her behind. But certainly not alone. Approaching the downed doctor, Shriek tells her that her days as an obedient slave are over. It's time to reclaim her former glory. And what better way to start than to kill the one who tried to shackle her true self? But upon seeing her arm, Shriek immediately backs off. She can't be the one to kill the doctor, for Dr. Neves has been chosen. Chosen to carry Carnage's offspring.
Let me explain some things. Symbiotes have the ability to asexually reproduce. To jog your memory, Carnage was created when Venom asexually reproduced, leaving behind a piece of the Venom symbiote that bonded with Cletus Cassidy to form a brand new symbiote, Carnage. So, in this story, Hall Industries took a piece of Carnage to create the armor that the security team was wearing. This is why Carnage could take control of the armor and reassimilate it, because it belongs to him. But to create Dr. Neves' prosthetic arm, they didn't just grab a piece of Carnage, they accidentally grabbed one of his seeds. Thus, Dr. Neves' arm actually doesn't belong to Carnage. It's a completely brand new symbiote. Hopefully, that makes sense.
Feeling the symbiote begin to take over her body, Dr. Neves begins panicking. She pleads for Shriek to help her. Anything to remove this living infection. But Shriek is in no mood to help, not after suffering years of mental manipulation from her psychiatrist. No, it's about time the good doctor got what was coming to her. Stumbling away, Dr. Neves begins crying in pain. She can feel the symbiote in her mind, begging to be fed. She's losing herself every second. She is no longer alone. She needs to feed. Unless she acts now. Jumping to the shattered glass strewn across the floor, Dr. Neves knows there's only one way to stop this. She won't be a victim. She won't become the next Carnage, no matter what it takes. With his Hulk-like strength resembling a towering inferno, Carnage looks to end Spider-Man once and for all. But Spider-Man is playing for keeps, his own anger swelling up inside of him. He will avenge everyone Carnage has just killed. He won't allow Cletus to live another day. He's done too much damage, caused too much pain. And now, Spider-Man will tear off his head if that's what it'll take to finally end the carnage. But someone else might have a say in the matter. Someone with destruction on her mind and scorn in her heart.
Let's recap the story. Years ago, Cletus Cassidy and his symbiote Carnage were killed, or so everyone thought. Turns out, his body was retrieved from space and experimented on, in hopes of creating biosynthetic technology that would launch Hall Industries into the stratosphere. No pun intended. Unfortunately for Michael Hall, he also used this technology to create Dr. Neve's prosthetic arm. This clearly backfired as the arm came alive and freed Carnage from his new prison. After brutally slicing off her biosynthetic arm, Dr. Neves abandoned the symbiote. But that's okay, because she found a new home with Shriek, Carnage's ex-lover. So here we are in the final issue. Both Carnage and Shriek have returned to the streets of New York to lay waste to Hall Industries. And only Spider-Man and Iron Man stand in their way. What's gonna happen? We'll see you at the finish line.
In a race against the clock, Michael Hall is escorted to a nearby helicopter. If he doesn't leave now, it'll be the end of him and his company. Carnage has escaped, and now he's out for blood, and Michael Hall is the most delicious item on the menu. As they head off to the undisclosed location, Michael sees the chaos on the street below, blood shed due to his gluttonous greed. But he's no Avenger. This isn't his problem anymore. Let someone else clean his mess. Good luck, New York. On the streets below, Carnage gathers his strength as he pushes towards the Avengers, a grotesquely transformed Shriek standing by his side. Looking back, Carnage tells Shriek to do what she does best, incite a murderous riot, while he heads off to spill Avenger blood. As Carnage shambles towards the heroes, Spider-Man takes to the skies, but is quickly brought back down to Earth as Carnage severs the web he's swinging on. With his sharp appendages poised for annihilation, Carnage goes in for the kill, but is immediately met face to face with the technological mastermind himself. And unfortunately for Carnage, his armor is no Stark Tech ripoff. And with a powerful blast of concussive force, Carnage is sent through a brick wall. But he's not done yet. He won't stop until Michael Hall is ripped into a million pieces. Flying in for round 2, Iron Man knows this has to get bloody. It's the only way to finish this psychopath. As he rips 2 sharp blades deep within Carnage's torso, Cletus howls in pain as the blades tear into his heart. But Carnage is strong and determined, and Iron Man is simply that, a man. He will be the first casualty. Limping forward, Spider-Man watches as Carnage ruthlessly disassembles Iron Man's armor. Shouting a challenge, Spider-Man tells Carnage to kill him first. He's the one he really wants. A challenge that is unceremoniously accepted. It's time to kill the man in the spider suit. Feeling the cold pavement beneath her, Dr. Neves can hardly believe what's happening, as waves of psychosis-induced New Yorkers stampede through the streets. Shriek's mind has officially cracked. She has devolved into her old murderous self. She won't stop until New York is a fiery ruin. Shriek forces Dr. Neves to look at the madness she spread. Her psychiatric ways couldn't save her. She was always meant for this, for carnage. But through Shriek's ramblings, she fails to notice the startling truth. The baby symbiote doesn't want Shriek. It's scared of her. Instead, it longs to be with its first mother. But Shriek is too busy with her madness, too overcome with rage. She craves death, craves chaos. As she convinces the New Yorkers to kill a bus of children. What a wonderful way to start the night. But something's not right. Wait a minute, the symbiote. It's pulling itself away. With the steel-hard chokehold, the symbiotic arm begins choking the life out of Shriek. It won't be a pawn for a psychotic monster. It won't subject itself to a tyrannical demon. Instead, it chose someone else. Someone worthy of the symbiotic relationship. Holding Shriek up effortlessly, Dr. NEMESIS lets the symbiote into her mind. Although she initially feared the alien, together they can stop her madness. They are no longer one. They are Scorn. Grabbing Shriek by the hair, Scorn knows there's only one way to stop Carnage. She has to use their own madness against them. She needs to bring her own form of carnage. Forcing her mouth open, Scorn tells the deranged woman to do what she was born to do. Show the world why you're called Shriek. Reeling from that devastating hit, Carnage struggles to regain his composure. His symbiote is no longer responding. But Spider-Man is done playing games. He's not allowing the murder to continue. It's time to end the carnage. But as the Carnage symbiote opens up, it reveals no sign of Cletus Cassidy. Somehow, in some way, he managed to escape. But thankfully, there is good news to be had. As Scorn drags an unconscious Shriek behind her, the madness is over, and the New York citizens have reclaimed their autonomy. Realizing that not everybody deserves to be saved, Dr. NEMESIS regretfully assumes responsibility for Shriek. She once tried to save this woman, but you can't save someone who's already gone. Ever since she was young, all she ever wanted was to save everyone she could. There's good in everybody. But tonight, Tannis Neves learned a hard truth. One that will stay with her forever. Sometimes, in order to truly save someone, you need to let them go.